course.
So I'm doing a minor now at the UvA. Are you working now in the Netherlands or not?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. And we're doing a kind of research with a group of 5. I'm with 4 girls, and together we are researching the sustainability of the fashion market, and especially we are looking into deadstock fabrics, so leftovers at big factories, if they get a good place to be reused, or they are new, so to be used actually, and if they don't get a good place to be used, then we want to bridge the gap of where this goes wrong. So we are now doing a little bit of research on how to do that and how it works right now. And I was wondering if these deadstock fabrics are a problem of yours or of Mud Jeans, and at what side you are, if you are maybe if you have deadstock fabrics and you need a place for them to go to, or you use deadstock fabrics yourself to make the jeans from, or you have nothing to do with it at all. That's also fine.
Yeah, I can maybe briefly explain. So essentially, we don't personally have a problem with deadstock fabrics. And the reason for that is that we work mostly on a never out of stock, so NOS concept, which means that we usually have, we don't really do seasons. So we do have some new jeans that come in the seasons, but in general, we have a kind of non-changing main collection. And for that, we're really able to estimate the demand very well, because we know based on previous orders how much to produce. And we have a great partner, Usex International, that can really work on a very spontaneous basis as well. So we don't really have the problem of overproduction.
What was the partnership you mentioned? Is that the supplier of the denim, or?
That's our garment supplier. So they use our fabrics to create the final jeans out of that.
Okay.
And they are our only tier 1 garment supplier. So we're really in close contact with them, and they can really respond very quickly to our needs, which means that we don't need to gamble as much as other brands need to do in terms of how much we produce. We can really respond just based on the demand that we receive. And another reason for why deadstock fabrics aren't a problem for us is that we only have a very limited number of fabrics. And then based on those different fabrics, we get more variation through different washes as well as different cuts. So we only have, I think, 10 fabrics, but we have many different styles and different colors. And we can achieve that just by cutting the fabric in a different way, dyeing it in a certain way, or having the final finishing processes applied in a different way. And this way we really have a small number of fabrics with a wide variety of styles. And this just means, again, that we don't need to gamble as much and have so many different fabrics. And that really reduces the problem of fabric waste. So essentially the only fabric waste that we produce is from cutting waste. So when we cut the fabric for the jeans, and this is also recycled. So on that side, we don't really have a problem.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good. And the cutting waste you mentioned, how is that recycled? Because I also saw your recycling program that you can bring back jeans in trade for a discount. And I saw on the website that a recycling partner in Valencia was mentioned. But I also saw on Instagram once a video of Bert, I think, putting jeans through a machine, and then new fabrics came out, sort of.
Yeah. Well, that machine is just something we use for kind of showing the process. It's
Okay.
used at events and things like that. So that's not really the main way that we do that. Usually old jeans we do recycle through a recycling partner in Valencia. For the cutting waste, it's a little bit different there. So the cutting waste happens in Tunisia, where Ustex is based. And
What is based there?
Ustex International. So they are the garment supplier. That's just the name of our garment partner. Yeah. So that's where the fabric waste happens, but it's really it's a lot less than the jeans that we produce, because we really the way that Ustex works is they trace the patterns on which they need to cut, and they place them in a certain way that really very minimal waste happens. But the waste that does happen, instead of sending it again all the way to Valencia, they have their local businesses in Tunisia that collect fabric waste from different companies to create different things out of this. So they create, either they use it as a filling for something, or it's a local partner that collects the fabric waste there and makes new things out of that. So this doesn't go to Valencia. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, just by myself, the metal parts in the jeans, what are they for? Do they have a special function? Do you know?
Yeah. So of course a button and the zipper is pretty clear. And then the rivets. So these are those small, round metal things that you have on certain parts of the jeans. They're really there to make the jeans stronger. So they're placed in certain areas where the jeans could easily rip if there wasn't any rivet there. And yeah, we then, at our recycling partner in Valencia, they cut out those certain bits with the metal, and that is then separated, and that can be recycled as well.
Okay, cool. And I saw on the website there was a partnership with Ikea for a couch. Is it true?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we we work with them. So our CEO Betty was in a podcast with I'm not sure, he's part of the innovations team at Ikea anyway. So they, I think, had a word together in a podcast, and then decided let's do something together, because Ikea is really starting to become more and more circular, and we are, of course, in the fashion realm already a little bit further, and so we really wanted to work together on that and help them become more sustainable. And yeah, so essentially how it works is we use a fabric that we already produced before that, but of course it's then cut differently. So for the amount of fabric that's used for the jeans, each cover uses 40% recycled denim and 60% organic cotton. And 40% recycled denim comes out of 2 old jeans, more or less. And then that's just at Ustex. So in Tunisia, this is just cut differently. And instead of buttons and rivets, you then have certain elastic bands in places and so on to make a sofa cover instead of some jeans.
Okay. Then I saw one other thing, that the problem for mud jeans was now to compete with smaller brands or bigger brands, but they are falsely claiming they are circular or sustainable, and they get a small mark or certification, while it's definitely not true. Is it something? How do you think mud jeans can fight against those false sustainable brands?
It's an exciting time right now, because before that it was really a question that we also asked ourselves: how can we stand up to this? Because it's the biggest problem is really with big fast fashion brands that claim,
more like H&M, Zara,
whatever example you want, but just any big fast fashion. I'm not naming any names, but you know what I'm talking about.
I can,
So they have, the problem is that they are not truly sustainable, but they have huge marketing budgets. So they can pay for certain, campaigns and certifications that we don't have the budget for. So for the consumer, it's really hard sometimes to tell the difference between a truly sustainable brand and a bigger brand, because sometimes you really need a lot of sustainability knowledge to understand. And you also don't have the time to question and research every claim that is being made. So if something says conscious collection, not every customer has the time to research what that means and to understand that. So far that was really a challenge. But we see now a trend where there will be more greenwashing regulation. So we saw really big brands like H&M and Decathlon being sued by local governments and consumer authorities for greenwashing claims that they were making. And we see it more and more now. So big fast fashion and general, retailers and so on are being held accountable for their greenwashing actions. And I think that this will have the consequence that these brands will become more and more careful with the claims that they make. And we also see on the EU level, at least, that there will be really specific regulations on who can make any sort of sustainability claim. And in general, there will have to be either an explanation of the phrase. So if you say conscious collection, you need to explain exactly what's conscious about it. And or you need to have proof of certain things. So if you say this saves water, you need to have the proof in place on how it does that. And that will mean, of course, that for brands like us who have the proof, who have something behind those claims, it will mean an advantage for us. And before, we were really struggling with setting ourselves apart from those claims, but now that only brands like us will be able to make those claims, we can then really see a difference, and that's something that we're really excited about.
And can you see yourself as Mud? How do you say? Make a legal action to one of those bigger companies as a kind of statement from Mud itself, or you don't see that happen?
I mean, it's a good point. We didn't really think about suing other businesses just yet.
Because that would be one fair. You do something that otherwise other good instantiations would do, and it's maybe a free marketing, free besides the marketing thing. And it also maybe you're then aware of a counterattack, so you must be fully transparent yourself either.
Definitely an option. Something we will need to look into. I think just reporting to those authorities could definitely be an option. In general, the kind of approach that we're taking is trying to lead more by positive example and inspiring on the positive side of things. That's just the move that we've consciously decided to go with, because we see so much negativity in the fashion industry and in general in sustainability. There's just an overwhelming amount of negative news, and we try to be positive with what we bring out there. So in that sense, it's something we would have to consider whether that works with that. But in general, I do think, of course, it's an option to also combat that a little bit more actively.
And I saw that what you said right now, 40% of the jeans are from recycled fabrics, and the idea is to get to 100% within a certain amount of time. And why is it 100% right now? What is the issue?
So what we do right now is we have, like you said, 40%, up to 40% recycled denim.
Mhm.
And the way that this denim is recycled is a process called mechanical recycling. So that means just the typical shredding of the old jeans, wearing it down into the original fiber and creating a new yarn and fabric and jeans out of that. The problem with this mechanical approach and the shredding is that the cotton fiber becomes shorter through the process.
Okay. So
So
it shrinks.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily shrink, but through the shredding, it gets cut and then the fiber just becomes shorter.
Okay.
And the problem with that is that if you use too much of that mechanically recycled fiber in a fabric, it can become less durable, less strong.
Okay.
So that's why we can only reach up to 40% now. But with our Road to 100 project, which aims to create these 100% recycled jeans, we combine mechanical with chemical recycling. And chemical recycling is, yeah, it's quite a complex process. I'm not the perfect person to explain, but essentially you use a green chemistry approach to break down the fiber into a sort of pulp. And from this, it's kind of a similar process as lyocell. You create a new fiber out of it. And this fiber can then be as long as you want it to be, because essentially you have this pulp and you create a long, let's call it a thread, and you cut it where you want it to be cut. But this way you can really have long fibers, and then you can mix the mechanically short fibers with the chemically long fibers, and then you can create a durable fabric out of that.
Okay.
And yeah, we were able to achieve this year the first sample. So just some shorts, but it is now proven to be possible, and it's the world's first.
Okay.
And we hope to really scale this up now and hopefully sell them next year.
Okay, cool. And is that something happening at your partner in Valencia, or is that happening at Mud Jeans somewhere else?
So the mechanically recycled part will still happen at Valencia. But the chemical recycling, there we work with a partner called Saxcel. So this comes from Saxion University. They are the university that we partnered up with to do the research on how to achieve this fabric. So Saxcel gives us the chemically recycled fibers, and Recover in Valencia gives us the mechanically recycled fibers. And now we're working with our fabric partner, so the one that creates we work with our yarn supplier and with our fabric supplier to see how can we then spin the yarn out of that, and how can we weave the fabric out of this. So that's where we're really working on now. How can we scale this up? How can we work with this along our supply chain?
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Yeah.
Maybe one last question. What do you think yourself about deadstock fabric? Do you think there are many opportunities for it to be used in a more efficient way for other companies, since you yourself do not fall in the category?
Yeah.
Or don't you think it's more on the side where you compute how many fabrics you need that to be more efficient, or it's also a good idea to focus on getting it to have a good place?
So I do think that it's very important that the deadstock fabric is used in an efficient way, and we also use 2 types of deadstock fabric from other brands.
Okay.
In a limited number of our products. So I do think it's very important that it is being used, but I always think that you need to attack the problem at the source, and the source is really overproduction.
Yeah.
And that really comes from constantly pushing new products and constantly having new fabrics, and there's just no way to compute this effectively without lowering the production that you have in place. So you really need to work on this at the source. And I think the most important thing is that no deadstock fabric or as little as possible dead stock fabric occurs. And then the next step is, of course, to use any that does occur. But it's similar as it is with carbon offsetting. So of course, it's important to offset the emissions that you create, but the most important thing is to reduce the emissions.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.